It's an important mission and an important job, and it is Sergeant Anthony's new job. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a dear friend, a defender of Israel, Sergeant Benjamin Anthony.
Good morning, CUFI. I want to make a special and unique introduction by turning to the defenders of Israel on campus, CUFI on campus students who are here, and introducing you to our defenders on the battlefield, the soldiers of the IDF. Please stand up and say hi. My dear friends, it's a wonderful privilege to be here at CUFI. Once again, I believe that this is the 7th year. In Jewish tradition, we take the 7th year off. This time, I decided to go against that rule. And the way in which I got here makes for some interesting listening. I was in the middle of a lecture tour that took me right across the United States of America, speaking in school after school at the rate of 7 talks per day. And that lecture tour during the course of the week was bookended by Shabbatot, by Sabbath morning speeches that I would give in the synagogues. On one particular morning, I walked into the synagogue of a dear friend of this organization, Rabbi Shaya Kalimnik in Rochester, New York. And Rabbi Shaya Kalimnik heard my words, and I managed to gain his approval. And he said to me, "Benjamin, I've got this great venue you have to go and speak at tomorrow. It's called A Night to Honor Israel. It's in the adjacent town of Bethel." And I said, "That's fine. Speak to the rabbi over there. Tell him that I'll come." I had no idea that A Night to Honor Israel was a Christian event heralded by a dear friend, Pastor Ron Dominer, over there in that church. And Rabbi Kalimnik said to me, "Benjamin, let me see if I can get you on. The schedule's set, but we'll do our best." And he got me 3 minutes. And I spoke for those 3 minutes. And as a consequence of the rabbi's leadership and the willingness of CUFI students, student leaders, and staffers alike to grant me audience when very few people would, I've had the honor of speaking across this great nation at campus after campus, along with the members of CUFI on campus who defend my name and the names of all the House of Israel. My friends, if you can just do this rarest of things for me, that Rabbi Shaya Kalimnik is currently in a battle for his health and for his happiness, battling against a dreadful illness. I'd like all of you, please, to give a round of applause to Rabbi Shaya Kalimnik and let him know that your prayers are with him. Now, 10 years ago, I was in the midst of the Second Lebanon War. That was a brutal war and a difficult war. And I ended up in that war because Hezbollah was firing rockets from the southern enclave of Lebanon onto our northern towns of Haifa, Tiberias, Kiryat Shmona. And everywhere from Haifa north in Israel was converted into nothing less than a military base where our elderly, our infirm, our women, our children, our unborn children were living in bunkers below ground for weeks, fleeing from these rockets, because back then there was no Iron Dome. So when a rocket was fired, a rocket hit. And all of Israel was charged with this dreadful task of dodging those rockets. Now, I remember being deployed in there, knowing because of that context that no battle could be more virtuous than the one we were about to wage. And I recall, though, today I'm not somebody who can speak as a religious man, but I am a deeply proud Jew from a religious background and a lover of the Jewish people and our traditions. I recall back then clinging to two rules that I carried in my heart. The first was to keep my eyes affixed upon the deserted towns of northern Israel as a reminder of the legitimacy of that which we were about to undertake. And the second was to recite over and over silently to myself the 23rd Psalm. Gam ki elech bagetz al mavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. And we descended into a valley with houses bearing down on us from both sides inside a combat zone, and we were fired upon. And we made it through that event. And I believe that it's only a combination of prayer and action that ensure the safe delivery of the people of Israel from the clutches of evil. You know, when you go to war, and I've not only been to the Second Lebanon War, I'm now a veteran of Operation Pillar of Defense and Operation Protective Edge, you become intimately acquainted with the realities of war. You become acquainted with starvation and dehydration and suffering. And I know that this may not be the most sentimental of things to say, but so be it. If one needs to starve, and if one needs to dehydrate, and if one needs to undergo hardship in the protection of the State of Israel, you can count me in any time, along with every member of my brigade. But of course I yearn for peace. This summer we haven't known war. And believe me when I tell you, the view from Israel is glorious in the absence of war. Our beaches are filled with people who are the very physical manifestation of the return of a people unto its land and the receipt by a land of its people. Our coffee shops are filled. People are enjoying themselves, laughing, smiling, celebrating the fact that they live in a modern-day miracle. But that modern-day miracle is ensured only by the courage of our men and women in uniform. I don't want to talk about war. I want instead to talk to you about a journey that I took in the midst of the war 10 years back. Because as we deployed back toward the line inside Israel, we were given 2 or 3 hours to refresh ourselves, and I recall that in the muddle that is war and the chaos that ensues, all of my worldly possessions had been lost, gone missing. And I was rendered to having nothing more than a rifle over my shoulder, a ripped pair of jeans, some flip-flops, and a t-shirt. And I drove to my home in Jerusalem, and then I drove back up to the border with Lebanon, going back to what I'd already come to know, the hardships of war. Glory had disappeared from the picture. And yet I became overwhelmed as I drew proximate to the base by this incredible feeling. It was a feeling that I was, for the first time in my life, exactly the right man, doing precisely the right thing, in precisely the right place, for precisely the right reason. And I think that people go a lifetime without that experience, but when you feel it, you can't really live without it. We know about this from the Bible, of course. Whether correctly or misguidedly, people hurry to try and do what they believe to be the right thing. On the side of the Jewish people, we have 2 wonderful examples. Abraham, when asked to go out and sacrifice Isaac, though Abraham was a man of great financial means, actually saddled his own donkey. He didn't leave it to a servant to do. In such a hurry was he to carry out the request of the Lord. Jacob, the viceroy of Egypt, did the very same thing. Joseph, rather, the viceroy of Egypt, did the very same thing. When Jacob came to greet him, having learned that he was alive, he ran in his own chariot to greet his father, honoring, in the Jewish tradition, father and mother. By contrast, acts of evil are ripe and rampant against the people of Israel. We know that Pharaoh, when he felt he could trap the Jewish people at the brink of the Red Sea, he set his own chariot and rushed in order to destroy the people of Israel, and we know what befell him. And Bilam, about whom we read in the next week's portion of the Old Testament, rushed and hurried under his own steam and power in order to curse the people of Israel. That dichotomy of good and evil exists in this day as well. In the modern day, the sides of evil are Hamas to our south and Hezbollah to our north, and the side of good are the soldiers and the members of the Israel Defense Forces. And the distinction is very straightforward. On the side of evil, those in the past who rushed to curse our people would do so themselves. The modern-day incarnation of evil has no such courage. They hide in bunkers and they send innocents and they hide behind innocent civilians, and the soldiers of Israel go under their steam to protect all of the house of Zion. That is a very strong contrast indeed. Friends, 2 months ago, as I conclude my thoughts, I want to share with you that I went to visit the death camps in Poland with 270 uniformed members of the Israeli National Police. Do you know that in Auschwitz, in the death camp that slaughtered more than 1 million of our people, there are craters in the earth surrounding those camps, surrounding those gas chambers, that have never been recovered. The land cannot fill in those craters, and the reason is because when the camp was liberated, the Nazi guards took the ashes of Jews and hurriedly, in order to hide the collection that they'd made, hurriedly scattered them along the ground, across the earth. And the earth does not forgive. These craters are like festering scars on the face of the land of Poland to this very day. Because even an inanimate object does not forgive evil carried out against good. Today, my friends, there is another great evil that's being perpetuated. And I speak to you about a young soldier of the Israel Defense Forces named Lieutenant Hadar Goldin. Lieutenant Hadar Goldin was the epitome of that which I just described. He ran from his home in order to defend Israel against rocket fire emanating from Gaza in 2014. As a junior commander in an elite unit of the Israel Defense Forces. And in the midst of a US-brokered ceasefire, Hamas ambushed Lieutenant Hadar Goldin, killed him, and dragged him into the tunnels, never to be seen again. They are holding his body so that they might hold Israel to ransom. His parents did indeed have a funeral in honor of their son, Hadar Goldin, but there's nothing there in the ground. My dear friends, the fact that Hamas holds one of our killed in action, who they in a fit and a demonstration of cowardice, killed in the midst of a ceasefire, must be made to be a festering sore and scar of their depravity, cowardice, and disgraceful behavior against the people of Israel. And you must remind everybody of the name of Lieutenant Hadar Goldin. Do not forget his name. He must come home to be buried among the people of Israel. Let me leave you with this thought. I told you that 10 years ago I was overcome by this feeling of being the right man in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. Tomorrow you will go to Capitol Hill and you will impress upon your legislators, your leaders, your staffers, and your elected officials the virtue of the state of Israel, not the case for Israel, but the virtue of the state of Israel. And you will protect us. And as you do so, please know that in my mind, you will be the very embodiment of the right people, in the right place, at the right time, doing precisely the right thing. You have never been needed more than you are today. So in the tradition of Jewish continuity, to you members of Christians United for Israel, I plead with you, chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Be strong, and we in Israel in turn will be strengthened. Go forward, it's worth this fight. Thank you, and shalom al Yisrael. Thank you. Thank you.